So when Eala plays, we all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
We pay only when Alex plays. Those 7 words came from a Filipino fan standing inside the BNP Paribas Open on March 7, 2026. This was not a tweet. This was not a Reddit comment posted anonymously. This statement was said directly to tournament officials at Indian Wells, spoken out loud, on the record. To the people who run the event, the fan went on to explain their ticket strategy. Mentioning the monthly subscription approach, it's paid to play, they said. When officials suggested getting the yearly package for $77, the response was simple and honest. They only pay when Alex Eala plays. Now let me set up the contrast that makes this story impossible to ignore. On one side of the grounds, Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1, stood with an 11-1 record on the year. She had just delivered a dominant 6-2-4, 6-2-2 second-round victory. Sabalenka herself remarked on the crowd energy, noting how many seats were full on a Friday. She was genuinely grateful for the turnout she received. On the other side of the grounds, something entirely different was happening. Alex Eala's court had standing room only, Philippine flags draped over every railing. Every point sounded like a football stadium, not a tennis match. This was not a Grand Slam final. This was a round of 64 match featuring the world number 32. The world number 1 had to acknowledge the crowd showing up. The world number 32 could not make them leave. 7 words from a Filipino fan have exposed something the WTA has never had to confront. A player whose cultural gravity wildly exceeds her ranking, whose presence turns every tournament into an economic event, and whose absence risks half-empty stands. Here is the question: will Eala's fans eventually fall in love with tennis itself? Or will they keep showing up exclusively for her? Drop your answer in the comments. Let me take you inside Indian Wells on March 7, 2026. Eala faced Aryna Sabalenka in what became a 3-set war. The final score, 7-5, 4-6, 7-5. The match lasted nearly 2.5 hours, with temperatures dropping into the desert cold, finishing late at night. The crowd energy was relentless through every game, every set, every breakpoint. This was not a marquee primetime showcase. This was an early round match at Indian Wells featuring a player ranked 31 spots below Sabalenka. Outside the venue after the match, hundreds of fans waited in line for autographs while Eala was still cooling down. Fans had driven hours from Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Inland Empire. Approximately 2 million Filipinos live in California alone. The scene resembled a concert meteorite, not a post-match walkway. The contrast with the rest of the tournament was striking. Indian Wells drew backlash over new ticketing rules that left stadium to looking barren during early rounds. Top 10 players walked onto court to scattered applause and visible gaps in the stands, while other courts sat half-empty. Eala's court was at overflow capacity. Sabalenka, the 3-time Grand Slam champion and the most dominant force in the women's game, remarked on the crowd energy herself, noting how many seats were full on a Friday. She was grateful for the turnout. Sabalenka is not the villain in this story. She is the benchmark. The fact that she noticed and appreciated crowd energy underscores how unusual it is for early rounds to feel electric, and how Eala's section of the tournament was operating on an entirely different energy frequency. After the win against Sabalenka, Eala found a microphone. Her voice cracked. "It means the world to have this community behind me. Stay up late and stay in the cold and cheer me on." It really added to the feelings and the emotions after the match. She was not performing gratitude. She was overwhelmed by it. The crowd was not background noise to her. They were the reason she fights through third sets at 11 p.m. in the desert cold. This emotional authenticity is central to why the bond between Eala and her fans remains unbreakable. It is not manufactured. It is not a PR strategy. It is real. This phenomenon did not begin at Indian Wells. It started accelerating in Dubai 3 weeks earlier. Tournament director Salah Talik confirmed publicly what was happening behind the scenes. "We did something like $53 million over 3 days over, in 72 hours, and it was really great. The stadium was sold out for all her matches," Talik said. "People were desperately trying to get tickets. We have never seen anything like it." This is a tournament director, someone who has hosted every major name in women's tennis, admitting that a player outside the top 30 generated demand he had never witnessed in his career. That is not fan enthusiasm. That is market disruption. In the Dubai quarterfinals, Eala lost 0-6, 2-6 to Coco Gauff, a double bagel in front of the same roaring Filipino crowd that had carried her through the draw. She responded not with excuses but with public gratitude, thanking the fans who stayed, thanking the opponent who outplayed her. The crowd did not leave after the loss. They did not boo. They did not disappear. They stayed. They cheered. They waited. The loyalty is not results dependent. It is identity-dependent. After defeating Eala, Gauff stood at the press podium and said something remarkable. "I know you guys are probably here for Alex, so I'm sorry. I would like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I feel like it is great for the sport to have this atmosphere. The player who won the match credited the player who lost it, not for her tennis, but for what she brings to every arena she enters. Goff recognized that Eala's crowd was not just cheering for a result. They were announcing their presence in a sport that had never seen them before. This is peer validation at the highest level. When your competitors are publicly thanking you for what you bring to the sport, the phenomenon is no longer debatable. The numbers off the court are even more staggering. At the Australian Open in January 2026, Eala's pre-tournament press conference pulled 171,000 views on YouTube. Sabalenka's drew 9,000 views. The world number one, three-time Grand Slam champion, the most dominant force in the women's game, was outdrawn 19-1 before a single ball was struck. Not by a rival champion, not by a former world number one, by a 20-year-old who had never reached a slam quarterfinal. These are not cherry-picked statistics. This is the official YouTube platform of the tournament. The disparity is staggering and impossible to explain away. Tennis has always sold tickets based on ranking, seeding, and historical prestige. The assumption has been that higher-ranked players equal bigger draws. Eala obliterates that assumption. She proves that cultural connection and community identity can outweigh ranking by an order of magnitude. Every tournament she enters becomes an economic event. Every tournament she skips risks, half-empty stands. Return to the fan, quote, "We pay only when Alex plays." This is not casual fandom. This is exclusive economic loyalty. An entire demographic telling the sport in plain language that their wallets open for one name and close for everyone else. For the WTA, this is simultaneously the greatest opportunity and the most complex challenge. How do you harness a fan base that is loyal to a person, not a sport? Steve Johnson spent over a decade on the ATP Tour, climbed inside the top 20, and played in front of the biggest crowds in professional tennis. He now co-hosts the Nothing Major podcast, one of the most respected independent voices in tennis media. He is not a hype man. He is not a Filipino media outlet. He is an American former top 20 player with no cultural bias toward Eala. On February 25, 2026, Johnson said what no one else in media had the courage to say: Is she bigger than Coco? Yes, dude. It is crazy. Standing room only. The insane crowds all over the world. A man who has lived inside those arenas, who knows what a big crowd feels like because he has played in front of them for years, is declaring that the number 32 player in the world is the single biggest draw in women's tennis. Not trending toward it. Not on her way. Already there. Johnson's credibility removes the biased fan-based counterargument entirely. This is not Filipino media hyping their own player. This is an objective insider confirming what the data, the tournament directors, and the fellow players are all saying independently. When the fan quote Goff's statement, Talek's revenue numbers, the YouTube metrics, and Johnson's declaration all point in the same direction, it is no longer an opinion. It is a documented phenomenon. Eala herself seems aware of the stakes. "I have only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines," she said on March 7th. "And now, I am bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world." She is not just playing for results. She is playing for a movement. This self-awareness is rare in a 20-year-old athlete. She understands that her significance extends beyond her ranking, beyond her results, beyond her own career. Revisit the post-match voice crack at Indian Wells. Revisit the gratitude after the Dubai loss. Eala does not perform for the crowd. She absorbs the crowd. The connection is reciprocal. They give her energy. She gives them representation. This authenticity is what makes the bond between Eala and her fans impossible to replicate through marketing. No PR firm could manufacture this. No sponsorship deal could create it. It is organic, it is cultural, and it is deeply personal for 115 million people. The Philippines has a population of approximately 115 million. The Filipino diaspora extends across every continent, with millions in the United States, millions in the Middle East, millions across Asia and Europe. When Eala plays, she is not just representing herself. She is carrying the flag for one of the largest and most globally dispersed fan communities in the world. No other player in women's tennis, arguably no other player in all of tennis, has this kind of built-in, culturally activated, global fan base. This situation raises a significant question. For the sport, is this loyalty a gift or a problem? History shows that culturally transcendent athletes can convert casual fans into lifelong sports fans. Yao Ming brought millions of Chinese fans to the NBA, and many stayed long after he retired. The Williams sisters brought Black American audiences to tennis in unprecedented numbers. Naomi Osaka activated Japanese and Haitian communities who had never watched the sport. If even 10 to 20% of Eala's fan base develops a genuine love for tennis beyond her, the WTA gains a massive, permanent new audience segment. The key is exposure. Fans who come for Eala but sit through a full day of tennis may discover other players, other rivalries, other storylines they connect with. The cautious view presents a different perspective. If fans truly only pay when Alex plays, then every tournament without Eala faces a measurable attendance and viewership drop. Injuries become catastrophic for scheduling. Withdrawals become revenue events. Earlier round losses become financial crises. The WTA cannot build its economic model around a single player's health and draw. The "we pay only when Alex plays" quote is honest. But it is also a warning. This loyalty has a ceiling if it never expands. Right now, in March 2026, the Eala phenomenon is a net massive positive for the WTA. It is filling arenas, driving revenue, generating media attention, and bringing an entirely new demographic into the sport. The conversion question is a long-term question. What needs to happen today is that the WTA recognizes the opportunity and does not squander it through poor scheduling, bad court assignments, or tone-deaf marketing. The Miami Open is next, and South Florida has one of the largest Filipino communities in the eastern United States. If Indian Wells was a preview, Miami could be the full feature film. Court assignments and scheduling will be closely watched. Then come the clay court swing and Roland Garros. Tournament directors from Strasbourg to Eastbourne are watching Indian Wells and Dubai and asking the same question: how do we get Alex Eala in our draw? The French Open will be the ultimate test. Can the Eala phenomenon translate to a Grand Slam main draw setting where she will need to win multiple rounds to sustain the energy? If she makes a deep run at Roland Garros, the global tennis conversation shifts permanently. Eala is currently world number 32 and climbing. If she cracks the top 20, she gets automatic seedings at every major. Better draws, bigger courts. A top 20 ranking combined with the existing fan base equals a combination the WTA has literally never seen. Every win accelerates both her ranking and her cultural impact in a reinforcing feedback loop. Let me recap the key evidence points. A fan said on record to tournament officials at Indian Wells, "We pay only when Alex plays." Tournament director Salatolek stated, "We have never seen anything like it." With $53 million in 72 hours and sold-out venues, Eala's press conference drew 171,000 views versus Sabalenka's 9,000 views, a 19-to-1 ratio. Coco Gauff said, "I would like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport." Steve Johnson declared, Is she bigger than Coco? Yes, dude." Eala stood in tears, saying, "It means the world to have this community behind me." And her mission: "I have only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines." Will Eala's fans eventually fall in love with tennis itself? Or will they keep showing up exclusively for her? And is that loyalty a gift to the sport, or a problem the WTA does not know how to solve? Drop your answer in the comments. If you recognized this phenomenon before the analysts and the tournament directors caught on, you belong here. This channel tracks the story as it unfolds. Indian Wells this week, Miami later this month, and every chapter after that. Subscribe so you are in the room when the next wave hits. Like this video if you believe Eala is already the biggest draw in women's tennis. Share it with someone who still does not understand what is happening.